Ice and fire, night and day, male and female, two moons of the Lion of Night and the Maiden made of Light. The children of the forest, sometimes referred to simply as the children, are a mysterious non-human race that originally inhabited the continent of Westeros during the Dawn Age, long before the arrival of the first men thousands of years ago. The giants call them little squirrel people. They call themselves those who sing the Song of Earth in the true tongue. The children have not been seen by men for hundreds of years. The children, as a race of beings, looked at weirwood trees as the old gods. They worshipped them with blood sacrifices. They commune with what fans came to call the weirwood net, a sort of hard drive come hive mind that saves memories past, present, and controversially in future snippets. The children of the forest have the magic of skin changing. They can share bodies of animals and control their movements. Wargs are skin changers of specifically dire wolves. There are also green seers among them that can connect directly to the hive mind and search the hard drive. Green dreams are push notifications from the hive mind while sleeping. When the children die, their mind goes into their animals for a second life. Otherwise, their flesh, blood, and memories go directly into the weirwoods. The Citadel educators positioned around Westeros tell of the earliest times of the continent being a place of the children of the forest who were constantly warring with their giant neighbors for whatever reason. This predates the arrival of the first men, who arrived across the Arm of Dorne when it was still a land bridge around 12,300 years in the past. George is fond of his unreliable narrators, and the Grey Rats are some of the least reliable. He begins his saga with the character of Waymar Royce, who disbelieves the superstitions of his companions only to be proven wrong, and follows this up with a point of view of a 7-year-old child who was conceived the year of the Greyjoy Rebellion. The earliest Maester stories of the distant past often favor the Andals even before the Andals arrived in Westeros. For instance, they talk about the first men having runic writing, but in the same sentence say they were illiterate. They have stories of knights and the Kingsguard in the north pre-conquest. The Maester's descriptions of the children are equal parts fantasy and condescension that you need to pull the truth out of. The Andal Maesters tell of the time when the first men arrived in Westeros. They desecrated the land and chopped down weirwood trees to create farms and holdfasts for themselves. The children then warred against the men to save the weirwoods. It is said that even though the first men were already in Westeros and, passenger boats, the green seers of the children decided to stop the spread of the first men and cast a most deadly spell known as the Hammer of the Waters to successfully break the Arm of Dorne. They apparently repeated this spell unsuccessfully to break the area known as the Neck, but just created a swamp. They apparently lost thousands upon thousands of their kind on these spells. Even more children were lost in the 2,000 years of battles with the first men to protect the weirwood net. The veracity of this legend is a topic for a different video. It does not seem like the children would fight a martial war of strength, but a war of magic. Are the skin-changing abominations listed by Varamir's Sixskins part of the arsenal of this war? Skin-changing men, feeding on human flesh, sex while skin-changing. So if the children were warging men, it would definitely convince them to chop down the trees with faces, forcing predator animals to conceive more predators that they could use to attack men. Having these animals eat humans, which would give them the taste for flesh even when they were no singers in the body. The children would continue to die in the wars, but the first men kept respawning. If my thoughts about the basis for the uses of Prima Nocta are correct, then the children of the forest since the Pact are composed mainly of converted bastards. I feel in a last-ditch effort to win the Dawn War, the children created a Night Queen of a skin changer or green seer female of the first men, a being of creation, given the power to animate and control the dead of the first men army, converted to use the first men reproductive energy against them. The children knew that dragonglass weapons would stop her, but of course they did not tell the enemy at first. This horrific change in the fabric of the war caused the terror amongst the first men and quickly caused the ceasefire that led to the Pact. The Pact of the Alafaces was a treaty that ended the war of the first men and the children of the forest, an event that took place more than 10,000 years ago. The Pact came to be after the first men and the children of the forest fought each other to a standstill, and the two races agreed to peaceful coexistence. It was entered into by the green seers and wood dancers of the children of the forest and the chiefs and heroes of the first men on a small island in the middle of a large lake known as the God's Eye in the Riverlands. The children retained the standing forests, and the first men were able to settle in the open lands. For example, the coastland, high plains, bright meadows, mountains, and bogs, while agreeing not to put any more weirwoods to the axe. Faces were carved on all the trees of the island to cement this agreement so that the gods could bear witness to the pact, giving its name the Isle of Faces. The Sacred Order of Green Men was established to maintain and keep watch over the Isle of Faces. The signing of the pact marked the end of the Dawn Age and the beginning of the Age of Heroes. It marked 4,000 years of friendship between the men and the children. The pact pact endured all through the Age of Heroes and the Long Night and the birth of the Seven Kingdoms, until finally there came a time many centuries later when Andals crossed the Narrow Sea. This is the Maester's version of the pact. As in my Beyond the Wall video, I feel it is more likely that, in exchange for recalling the Night Queen in the First Wars, the First Men and the Children created the pact, which would have included the Maester's version as well as dictates sacred sacrifice of blood and viscera to the werewoods. The First Men would give them baby girls who carry the skin changer gene that could be converted to children to replace the numbers that were massacred. The Order of the Green Hand would also monitor the Night Queen. Like the Blue Heart in the House of the Undying, she is the Heart of Winter that Bran saw freed, surrounded by nearly 100 of her White Walker children. The Night's Watch would receive 100 dragonglass weapons every year from the children. The children offered their assistance and magics when requested. They may even have promised to break ties with the Night Queen or promised to never use this weapon again. The Night Queen had time to experiment on how to use the magic required to raise the dead to convert First Men wildling babies into beings like herself. This time, the magical energy required may have set the seasons out of kilter. The Long Night lasted a generation. Ostensibly, it would have taken around half a generation, about 10 or 15 years, for the winter to reach its southerly limits, half a generation to turn the war. Lomas Longstrider, in his Wonders Made by Man, recounts meeting descendants of the Rhoynar in the ruins of the festive city of Croyane, who have tales of a darkness that made the Rhoyne dwindle and disappear. Her waters froze as far south as the joining of the Selharu. According to these tales, the return of the sun came only when a hero convinced Mother Rhoyne's many children, lesser gods, such as the Crab King and the Old Man of the River, to put aside their bickering and join together to sing a secret song that brought back the day. It is also written that there are annals in Ashai of such a darkness, and a hero who fought against it with a red sword. His deeds are said to have been performed before the rise of Valyria, in the earliest age when Old Geese was first forming its empire. This legend has spread west from Ashai, and the followers of R'hllor claim that this hero was named Azor Ahai and prophesy his return. In the Jade Compendium, Colloquo Votar recounts a curious legend from Yi Ti, which states that the sun hid its face from the earth for a lifetime, ashamed at something none could discover, and that disaster was averted only by the deeds of a woman with a monkey's tail. Selharu shares a similar latitude to Starfall or Old Town in Westeros, and the Five Forts farther east in Essos. This is where the war front turned back north. The children gave the dragonglass to the First Men, the last hero, and/or Azor Ahai, to vanquish the others and bring back the dawn. They may have used fallen star metal at Starfall to make a sword. At this time, it may have been called Lightbringer, or ice. The children had lost control of their WMD. It had autonomously aimed itself against not only the First Men, but themselves by bringing a never-ending winter. When the last hero came to them for help, they gave it freely. They gave dragonglass weapons to kill the whites, and the dragonsteel sword was created not to break against the ice swords of the others. And the dragonsteel sword, Lightbringer, was created to fight the ice swords of the others. The Night's Watch was born. Due to the timing, many could have been of Garth's bastards. They fought the White Walker's army back to the north. It is fair to think that maybe the Night Queen was the last survivor again, or if you want to think that it was now a Night's King who was the last survivor. Either way, the war was won again without the annihilation of the others. After the repeal of Prima Nocta, the pact was broken for good. The children have withdrawn their assistance to the First Men. There is no longer word of any deliveries of dragonglass to the Night's Watch. The children have withdrawn from the world and left it to the First Men rather than war with them, and went back to the caves and trees that hide them, the same lands they took for themselves in the pact. The north kept the weirwood sacred, but the south was invaded by the Andals, who did not keep to the pact. They cut down the weirwoods, but left many stumps, like the Circle of 31 at High Heart. Magics and the Green Men protect the Olive Faces. There were rumors of people connected to the children here and there, but these rumors were usually disbelieved. Maggie the Frog, the ghost of High Heart, Jenny of Oldstone's Woods Witch companion, the Cranigman. It was said that the children used the Hammer of the Waters on the neck after the Arm of Dorne. It was said that the Hammer of Waters was cast from the children's tower of Moat Cailin. Maybe one spell did both. There are basalt rocks in the land surrounding Moat Cailin. Is this another hinge of the world? The Reeds and Cranigman are loyal to the children of the forest. Greywater Watch has no maester to contradict the old gods. Howland Reed was born between 260 and 265, with 265 being a comet year. He was called to visit the Isle of Faces and spent a whole winter there. He left the year of the false spring. Many things happened in the approximately 3 years of winter before the tourney of Harrenhal. Finally, he looked north. He saw the walls shining like a blue crystal, and his bastard brother John sleeping alone in a cold bed, his skin growing pale and hard as the memory of all warmth fled from him. And he looked past the wall, past endless forests cloaked in snow, past the frozen shore and the great blue-white rivers of ice, and the dead plains where nothing grew or lived. North and north and north he looked, to the curtain of light at the end of the world, and then beyond that curtain. He looked deep into the heart heart of winter, and then he cried out, afraid, and the heat of his tears burned on his cheeks. Now you know, the crow whispered as it sat on his shoulder. Now you know why you must live. Thank you for watching.